Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be my first real video about Age of Sigmar, where I will be talking about how I started with the Stormcast Eternals as an army. So first choice you have to make in Age of Sigmar obviously is which army to go for. For me, I thought, well, I'll just go with the poster boys of the game, just to get into the game, and supposedly they have a bit simple rules, just easy to start off with, and they are widely available also on the second-hand market. I don't really like the general Stormcast Eternal paint schemes, but I also had a solution in mind for that. So let's see how that went. I got second-hand online a quite a decent deal for a start of a Stormcast army. I was planning to play mostly infantry focused, which really helps out because most of the starter boxes give you a lot of infantry models, and that is quite useful. That was quite useful to me. Um, so I could make a very easy first list with Industra, who's available from the Dominion starter box. The Knight Vaxlor is in there. The Praetors, one small unit is in there, I think. Prosecutors, I don't think the Praetors were reinforced at this point yet, but we have a Lord Relictor with some Annihilators with Grand Hammers, some Liberators in there, and then a Knight Cannon with some Vindictors and Gryphounds. So it's a nice little set of different things that I had. The list deviates a little bit, but I had some proxies available to substitute. And yeah, this was my first attempt, so let's see how that went. We went for a very bloody game against Seraphon. So I made in Eindhoven here in the Netherlands, we have a group of people that are all picking up the game more or less at the same time. I think I came a bit late to the party with the others having already started. I think there's like 2 or 3 guys that are in it for a year or two, and they have a bit of an influx over the years now. So yeah, my beautiful army of grey. I think this is one of the few moments that I have actually played with a grey army. Um, is facing off against also an army in progress, the Seraphon of my buddy. So he had some Cav, he had some Croxigors, the really beefy, tanky Croxigors, and some big dinos. And I must say, Industria against the big dinos was pretty impressive to see. Yeah, it was a really casual game, really nice to see what all the different elements in my list could do, more or less, and also to learn about objective control in Age of Sigmar. It's a really interesting game just for the fact that killing your opponent is only like the secondary aspect of the game, and the first aspect is just the battle tactics. Then there's the Stormkeep Discord channel that I have to mention here. They have a lot of information on Stormcast. There are a lot of people that are enthusiastic getting into Stormcast. And they also, at the moment where I was just cleaning up my army, I discovered that they had painting contests. So right now they're doing the painting prosecutors contest. At the time, halfway July, they had the painting liberator contest, which just fit in perfectly with my paint plan. So I painted up my liberators and submitted them to the contest. My paint job is quite basic compared to some other of the paint jobs in there. But it's also because by now I've learned to also value efficiency over the perfect paint job. So I would rather just have a decent looking army on the table within reasonable amount of time than to have 3 models fully finished and the rest still sitting in the grey. But yeah, if you are using Stormcast, please check out the Stormkeep. They are fantastic. Um, but probably if you know my channel, you already know the Stormkeep as well. Then yeah, these are some of the focus pieces of my army. I have my Knight Vaxlor and my Indastra, and I also supplied them with the required bunnies on their bases just to cheer the game a bit up. This is the full force by now. more or less. So I have my Annihilators with shields, I have my Prosecutors, I have the Praetors, the Vindictors reinforced unit, Liberators reinforced. I have Industra, the Lord Imperator, the Relictor, Lord Relictor. I have some Vigilors, some Annihilators with Grand Up. Well, they are Retributors, but then again, you can't really use them anymore. So, Annihilators with Grand Hammers, Liberators, Knight Arcanum, and the Knight of Vexilor. This is still a Warcry band, I believe. And then I still have another Warcry band. It's the one with a mage in it, so I think I can get I can proxy like a second Knight of Arcanum if I would want to. Yeah, and it's been quite easy to paint, I must say. Mostly relying on basing materials to just get the job done. So yeah, my previous lists, as you saw, I can discuss a little bit more about it. So that was this one. It was a nice list to play. The only thing that I really lacked was some extra damage, basically. So objective control wise, Stormcast in general are amazing. With just you being able to put down units wherever you want. Well, just deep striking units basically. Um, and Industra is a double-edged sword. Like in some matchups, she's really amazing, and in some she is really lackluster. And then the 8 hit points with a 5 board, she dies to just random stuff, which is kind of okay. I feel like basically you need either a second focus piece in your list to make it work, so that she can dual team, tag team with someone else, and then go in, or you need to build a list that is a bit more defensively oriented, and then she's basically a deterrent for the opponent. Knight Vexilor is amazing, just for the point value that he costs. He's just amazing. I was also considering to replace one of the other characters with the Knight Vex, just to fill the character slot, because the other characters are not as amazing as the Knight Vexilor is. And the Praetors, I do like them. They are a decent upgrade over the other infantry choices in terms of damage output, because they have damage too. So reinforced, they also start to deal some damage compared to the other choices. Prosecutors are an ideal point cost for you to be able to just deep strike them somewhere, threaten the enemy, and make your enemy turn around with some essential parts of their army that they don't really want to. So they are also basically an auto include for me. Preferably not in my general's regiment, but what can you do? Then we have the Lord Relictor, who felt lackluster, to be honest. But then I think it's also over time you get to learn how to make use of the prayers most successfully. So if you can translocate, I don't know if it has a boosted version actually, but if you can translocate at a good moment, then that can really change the game. Blast weapons can be interesting if you have a unit like the Annihilators with the Grand Hammers that have damage 3 on their profile. Otherwise, blast weapons is not that interesting, I would say. And the healing is already covered by the Knight Vexilor, so you mostly take them for the teleportation, I think. Annihilators, I'm not impressed. I'm really not impressed, just because of the fact that they don't do anything. They drop in from the sky, sure, and then they just stand around with their move 4, and enemies can just walk around them. You can use them to control an objective, but then you can also just use 5 Liberators, or even the cheaper Vindictors, or anything that doesn't cost 180 points. Then the Annihilators with the Grand Hammers is a different story, because they do pack a punch. They really do pack a punch. And there's a lot of damage coming out of these guys. And for that reason, I would say that they are kind of worth it. But the move 4 still drags them down. And I also discovered that they don't really, they you can't really use them for counter charges. because if you countercharge, your opponent gets to pick where to strike first. So on your countercharge, you would need to roll an 8 or higher for it to make it worth it, because otherwise the enemy is just going to strike first, kill off at least one annihilator, probably with one of their decent combat units, and then your combat power just goes below a threshold of actually mattering. So it's difficult. It's like, even if you have the Lord Imperator in there for the D3 move, then your charges are not reliable enough to make sure that they can really work. And then you would want to play a reinforced unit, so that's going to be 440 points. That is a lot of points for you, for just a basic unit. So you basically want to get your combat damage from somewhere else, I think. Then you have Liberators. Liberators are nice and fun, but they're no upgrade over Vindictors, I must say. And Vindictors, they are good, but I would say that their damage output is still quite lackluster. Like a reinforced unit, you would say that 220 points buys you some damage. You get 21 attacks that on a 4+ strike first. Strike first is really neat on a big unit like that. It does deter people from charging in sometimes. But then the 21 attacks, 3+, 3+, that's okay. You do some damage. You do some decent damage. So I think, I don't know if I want to keep playing them reinforced, because you get a bigger buff from the strike first. It's like the strike first is not something that you can rely on yourself, but your opponent has to account for it. So that is what makes them stronger than the Liberators. And they have +1 rent against something under some conditions, I think. So that it definitely makes them stronger than the Liberators. However, there's also still the Vanquishers. I don't have any Vanquishers, so I don't think for the time being I'm gonna invest in some, because, well, I have these guys and they're just perfectly fine. But the Vanquishers would deal double damage against units with 5 or more models. Then again, your opponent can counterplay quite heavily to that, which is charging in with anything that doesn't have 5 or more models. So I think in the end, maybe my preference will go to the Vindictor still, if I want to play one of the battle line units. Then Gryph-hounds. Gryph-hounds are a very decent screen, and they still do some damage. They can mop up a small hero here and there. But in general, I found that the list relies quite heavily on the annihilators to do the damage, and then this is just too labile of a thing to rely on. Also, the Praetors, they can pack some damage, but they only have round 1. Round 1 is sometimes just not enough. I played against Catacross the other day. I was just missing rent in general. So yeah, I was thinking about another list, how to upgrade this list, and I'm gonna try out this. So obviously, Stormcast nowadays, you have to include Vanguard Raptors with long strike crossbows reinforced, mostly because of the seasonal rules with the Honor Guard regiment. So you'll get +1 +1 on that to hit and to wound roll, which is shooting. It's 13 shots. With the +1, it's 2+2+, with rend 2, rend 3 against the heroes, and damage 2. With crit auto wounds, well, crit auto wounds doesn't really matter if you wound on 2+ anyway. But yeah, that is just a reliable source of damage. It's basically a time clock that you put on your opponent for them to kill your long strikes, because otherwise they're just gonna eat up everything. That is quite a valuable damage piece that I added now. The Celestin Prime. So Celestin Prime, I think a lot of people give him a bit of beef because he's not as reliable and he doesn't do just enough damage. However, if you pair him up with an Astra, sure, you're paying like 700 points. But the two together, then you get quite a lot of threat range, you get quite a lot of damage potential, And that is basically what the list otherwise lacks a bit. Like you have like these cute units that can go everywhere. But after you drop, your mobility is not that good. You can grind quite well, however, you don't really have this Alpha Strike damage anywhere in the list, which these two guys provide together. Nightfax is going to be in it. The Vigilers I have included, and I really like them. They're the perfect flank unit. Like you want a unit on the flanks anyway, because you want to, with order list, you want to take the flanks, and you want to score the one where you have to do the four quarters, and you have to be outside of 6. So Vigilers really play well into that. So in this setup, I can have the Vigilers in one quarter, I can have the Prosecutors in another one, and then I have 2 units in my own deployment. So I could even deep strike the Vigilers. I haven't done that yet, but that might be an idea actually for them. And then we have Liberators, Vindictors, just to form a bit of a battle line. Hopefully my opponent will go towards these units and then just leave the rest alone. But we will see how that will plan out. So composition wise, I'm still looking to shuffle it around a bit. Like this Lesson Prime, I think he can take any Stormcast because he's a War Master as well. So one of these can be my general, and then I have to put the Vanguard Raptors in the General's Regiment for them to become the Honor Guard, I believe. But then stuff like the Prosecutors and the small units I can just take out of the General's Regiment, just so that I don't have the danger of giving my opponent a very easy slay the entourage objective. Yes, this is going to be probably what I'll be taking to Bloodstorm in Eindhoven as well, but we will see. I think it can be quite a nice list, quite nice to play as well. Can play into a lot of different things. Plays quite well into monsters, obviously, with Industra and the Raptors, the Vanguard Raptors. They're gonna just do a lot of work, I expect. Yeah, so infantry-based Stormcast. Do you like this list? Do you have any tips? Please let me know, and I will see you then next time.